words could explain the weight of your glory, or the majesty of your name. What heart could fathom, what mind could imagine your intelligence? What words are adequate to praise a perfect God? So we sing, holy, holy are you, Lord, and all the earth will sing. We sing, holy, holy are you, Lord. Let all your people say, holy, holy, holy. All the earth will.
Good morning and good afternoon. I am Minister Roy Paul, coming to you live from Madry Temple Church Inspiration and Revitalization Center. On behalf of Pastor Jack Madry, I'll be filling in for him this week. I'd like to thank you for tuning in this week. We'd also like to take this time to thank our first responders, our healthcare workers, our military members, and their families that are continuing to serve and to fight on the front lines of this virus that we're dealing with, this pandemic. We'd also like to take this time to remember the approximately 141,000 Americans who've lost their lives due to COVID-19, their families. We'd also like to especially remember our two civil rights icons that we lost this week, Representative John Lewis, Reverend C.T. Vivian, and also a little closer to home, we remember the Reeves family who lost the matriarch to the family, Minister Nicole's grandmother, Corinne Reeves. We're thinking of you, Mama Reed. We miss you, we love you, and we will continue to love and serve in your honor. With that note, let us take a moment of silence as we remember those who have gone home to be with the Lord. Amen. And so, as I'm preparing the message for this week, I received a call on Monday letting me know that I'd be speaking to you this week. And so I began to think about the environment that we're in right now. What do the people need? What does God want the people to know? And so I was confronted, I began to vacillate between the two opinions of I'm made in the image of God versus you are made in the image of God. And as I thought about the topics, looking at I am made in the image of God only gets at maybe half of the issue, right? Because it's focused on myself. It's how I see myself. It's my thoughts. It's my hopes, my fears. It's more pointed inward. And that's only half of the battle. Because right now, the issues that we are being confronted with are outward. They're other-centered. And with that in mind, I'd like to use a thought for today that you are made in the image of God. You are made in the image of God, right? And this is from a very familiar passage of Scripture. Almost everyone, whether you're a Christian or not, is familiar with Genesis being the first book of the Bible. And so, Genesis, we see in the beginning God, right? This is the very first verse in the Bible and how it starts. And pretty much that establishes a particular foundation that if you can't understand that, or if you dispute that, if you discount that, then you're going to mightily struggle with all of the subsequent verses, right? From verse 2 all the way through Revelation. If you can't get in the beginning, God. So he's there. He's self-sustaining. He's self-evident. He is he is the beginning, right? And matter of fact, the first time he characterized himself when he was speaking with Moses, and Moses inquired, who should I tell them sent me? And God replied, I am that I am, which encapsulates in the beginning God. And so looking at the beginning and how God created everything, right? He found an expression, right? Through creating the world, through creating nature, the earth, the water, the sun, the moon, the stars, land, everything that exists on land. He created it all. And yet, it wasn't enough for him. It wasn't expressive enough. It didn't fully encapsulate or capture the I am. And so, in order to do that, we find ourselves looking at verses 26 and 27 of the first chapter. Right? So what we see here is, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And so we see God, the exclusively God part, communing with the absolutely God part, but not exclusively God part, in that let us make man in our image. Well, we know that God does not possess a physical body. So what does this mean? What do we think when we hear the word image? For us today, you might think it's the pictures you see on the wall behind you. You might think it's pictures on your phone, in your home. You may think that it's beautiful artwork, right? These are all representations, true and indeed. But at this particular point where God is expressing this concept of image, knowing that he doesn't possess a physical body, right? It must be something more. There must be certain attributes or characteristics that God possesses that he desires to see. And so, some of the attributes of God, he is omnipotent, right? He is all-powerful. And so, if what does the image of that look like? That looks like an individual being empowered, right? He is omniscient. He is all-knowing. For us, he has given us the intellect to learn. He is omnipresent. He is present everywhere. And though we can't be present everywhere, we in fact have a presence everywhere that we physically go. We are present in those individual moments. He is eternal, as we are eternal. He is wisdom. He is justice. He is love. And we in turn have the capacity to exude, to exhibit these things, these characteristics, these attributes. So in essence, when God says, let us make man in our image, he is looking for a reflection, right? So what God does, he creates mirrors. He creates two mirrors in essence, right? Adam and Eve. And in so doing, right, because this is a mirror which shows a reflection. A reflection is different from a picture, right? Because a picture captures a static moment in time. For all intents and purposes, it is not alive. Whereas a reflection, when I look at myself in the mirror, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you are yet alive. That reflection is alive. It is a living thing. There is a cellular activity that is going on beneath what we see, right? That reflection is alive, and we in turn are alive. We are active. And so in doing this, right, we have the ability to exhibit the attributes of God. So when God looks out and he sees you, he sees his reflection. And when you look in the mirror, you in turn should see God. Now I know it's gotten a little difficult, right? And we're going to get into some of that, why we have trouble at times seeing God through the reflection that we see back. So when God looks at you, he sees his reflection. When you look in the mirror, you see God reflected back. When you look at me, you should see God. When I look at you, I should see God. So by extension, if I look in the mirror and I see God, and you look in the mirror and you see God, and it is our reflections that we are seeing, when we look at each other, we should see each other and God. Because in seeing God, we are in fact seeing ourselves. And if we are able to see God in our reflection, in each other's reflection, then we are going to relate to one another a particular way. But as I said before, we had a problem. There was disobedience that took place in the garden. Adam and Eve, they received instructions from God. They disobeyed those instructions. And as a result, we became evident of a second mirror that was always present. And this one I like to refer to as the funhouse mirror, right? We became aware of our physical image. Before, we were only aware of our spiritual image, but as a result of disobedience, as a result of a lack of faith, as a result of the fall of man, we are now aware of our physical image. And it is that physical image, that funhouse mirror image, you know, the one that takes somebody that's tall and makes them short and stretches them out wide, or it takes their face and it distorts their face, right? We all like the funhouse mirror when we were kids, going to the circus, going to amusement parks, right? We would look in the mirror and we would laugh. So we exchanged the regular mirror for the funhouse mirror. And we allowed that physical image to usurp our spiritual image. Not only did we do that, we allowed the dominion that we were granted in verse 26 to be transformed into domination. So we've moved from dominion, which comes with a certain level of power and authority, but it also comes with responsibility and accountability. Right? to domination. It's one thing to be given something. It's another thing to take something. And that's where we find ourselves consistently and continually confronted with our physical image. And so we've struggled ever since then. When the Israelites requested a king, they were tired of the Ark of the Covenant. They were tired of the Levites always carrying this thing around, right? This golden box, as they would confront the enemies of God. And there'd be in opposition to them some big and strong and beautifully arrayed king that would stand before them, that would challenge them. And all they had was this little gold box. So they turned because of image and wanted a king. David and Bathsheba. I think it's pretty clear that image was a problem in that scenario. Even though David knew who she was. He knew she was Uriah's wife. So in order for him to be with her, he had to either see her differently or he had to replace that fact with a fact of his own. I'm the king. I do what I want. So we do this every day. Jesus, where's he from? Nazareth. Obviously that doesn't fit the mold of what the leadership was expecting. They had a particular image in mind of who the Son of God would be, of who their deliverer would be, of who the Messiah would be. And when Jesus showed up, he wasn't it. And there are times when we show up and we're not it, because we fail to see the spiritual image. We're still looking in that funhouse mirror. So various groups have always been arrayed against various groups. We belong to various groups. You look at me speaking to you now. You're like, he's a minister. You see me in my military uniform. He's a soldier. What else do I belong to? I'm a father. That's a group. I'm above average height. So I'm in the tall category. Right? I went running today, and I can tell you that I'm also in the above average weight category. So we belong to all of these different groups. My husband, I'm a son, I'm a man, and I'm black. All of these different groups and categories. And you fit into any number of categories. And it's this conflict that exists that challenges us and changes us and threatens each and every day to undermine our very existence as Christians. Yet another group. And even that group can be subdivided into groups. So we have all of this conflict that exists between the physical image, the spiritual image, and this idea of domination that took over where dominion once lied. Because in order for me to operate in domination, I have to see you differently. I can't see the spiritual image that you possess and dominate you. Those two don't go together. They don't mix. They can't coexist. So I'm left with only looking at the physical image of you, right? And am I the sole proprietor of my image? Individually, yes. But we know full well that there are times where whatever group you may or may not belong to, there are certain views, certain perspectives, certain ideas that are superimposed upon the entire body. And so, in order for me to dominate, once again, I have to see you differently. I cannot look at you and see God. I have to see something else. Because if I can see something else, then I can dominate that thing. Then I can colonize that thing. I can enslave that thing. I can incarcerate that thing. I can establish systems and structures and policies that are designed to keep that thing exactly where I want it. There are far too many of us that claim the mantle of Christianity for us to be confronted with the challenges that we face today, that we have faced for hundreds of years. Some could argue thousands of years. So with that thought, can America be saved? Can America be saved? I say yes. I certainly hope so. Because I've been fighting for almost 30 years now. But it's not America the former, nor is it America the present. But it's the idea of America. It's the concept of America. America, for me, it's hope, it's dreams, it's compassion, it's a helping hand, it's a smile, it's a cool drink of water on a hot summer day. It's freedom, it's liberty, it's justice, it's beautiful. And if we can just imagine an America like that and do all that we can to get to that and make that a reality, then we'll find ourselves on far better footing. But in order to do that, we have to exchange the funhouse mirror for the original mirror. We have to exchange the physical image for the spiritual image. So the next time you find yourself in the mirror, I want you to look really closely. I want you to look really deeply. And I want you to find God, because He's in there. And when you see me, or when you see someone else, anyone else, I want you to look a little closer than you otherwise would look. Because God is there. He always has been. He always will be. Because it is in Him that we live and move and have our being. There's a treasure that exists in each and every one of us, hidden in this earthen vessel. There's a treasure that's hidden in a field. And it is in that field that there's so much hope that there's so much love, that there's so much compassion. But we have to sell all we have. We have to sell those ideas, those biases, those prejudices, those things that seek to divide us. Sell all of that and buy that entire field. Because in that field is treasure. And in that treasure is God. And in God is you. And in God is me. So God bless you. May heaven smile upon you. And I look forward to the time when we can physically come together once again and worship God in spirit and in truth. God bless you.